It's your girl, I am Sheila Michelle, back with another episode of I am Sheila Michelle, the podcast. I'm so glad to have y'all here. And I want y'all to put your hands together because, as I mentioned, every guest on I am Sheila Michelle is special. And I promise you, this is a very, very, very special guest. I want y'all to welcome Mrs. Nas Anderson, who
Hi.
is CEO of Paymac Consulting. Paymac is a media agency and also has a strategic operations consulting arm as well, known as Back End Bestie on IG. Paymac Media Consulting, not Paymac Media Consulting, but under your Back End Bestie, you are now an author.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
congratulations, girl.
Thank
Okay,
you.
can we say Amazon bestseller?
Yes.
Okay, come on.
And Barnes and Nobles and
And
all the
Barnes and Noble.
things. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
So I want to make sure, and we're going to come back before we close out the podcast later on. But I want to make sure right now, y'all go ahead and make this first note, and that's to grab the book, Run the Play. Okay. All you got to do is run the play now. Just
Period.
run the play,
Mhm.
which will give you 9 components to build and scale your business.
Yes.
And so I'm so excited about this conversation.
Thank you
because
for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's such a blessing to be here. One thing that I really, really value about you is just you sharing your gift, right? Because you could be keeping all the game, all the gems,
Yeah.
all the goodies to yourself,
Mhm.
but you unselfishly share these things with
Mhm.
communities. And so I want to go right into the building and scaling of business and why it's important to think not only about building the business, but also scaling the business.
Yeah. So, that's all about starting with a plan. A lot of the times we have great ideas. A lot of us are so skillful in what we do, but it's kind of like, how do I make this an actual legitimate business that I can leave to my children? And that's one thing I valued about you when I first met you. I'm like, wow, you're really teaching people how to start a legitimate business that they can hand down to generations to come. It's not just a fly by night situation. I'm like, I didn't even know we could own clinical labs and drug testing centers. You know what I mean? So, just in that, when you start, you have to start with the end in mind. And I think that's so important. And that's something that people leave out all the time. They're just kind of going with the day to day. But if you create a plan from the beginning, the sky is truly the limit.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of starting with the end in mind, when you were little Nas, before you became big Nas, before God did his big one with you, right? What were you thinking?
Honestly, we laugh about it. Ken and I, my husband, we laugh about it all the time. But I was a different kind of kid, and I didn't realize it until I got older and had my own kids. But I didn't like to play as a child. Like, my idea of playing was acting like I'm on a computer, even though computers just came out when I was a child.
Right.
And whenever we would travel somewhere, I would save the plane tickets and act like I was traveling on business trips. And so I legitimately did this. And so somehow, some kind of way, because I didn't have that example. I mean, I come from Jamaica. I was born there. My family's from there, and they worked. They came here for a better life to work. Nobody came here to really start a business or do anything like that. So it was ingrained in me, education, 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 get a good job, and then you'll be good. It wasn't until I met my husband, and he comes from a line of entrepreneurs, that he was like, you know what, we could do stuff for ourselves. We don't have to work for anybody. So I'm like, man, this little girl with these big dreams to, run a company could run their own company, not somebody else's.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So one thing that's very important to you is being intentional. Talk to my rich friends about that.
Whew, yes. I mean, again, like I said, we have so many ideas all the time, but why are you doing anything that you do? You know what I mean? Is it because you saw somebody doing it? Is it because you just want to try it out? Like whatever your why is, the only way that you'll actually be able to be disciplined in something that you do is because you want to do it with a greater purpose. So you're intentional about it. You know, just like something so simple as you want to get your hair done. You're not just going to wake up and think someone's going to come to your house and do your hair. You're going to what? Get online, start looking for someone to do your hair. That's intention. You have a goal in mind, so you're actually doing the steps that it takes to reach that goal. That's intention.
Yeah.
And so I think oftentimes, even just not in your business, but in our personal lives, when you don't move with intention, you find yourself all over the place. You find yourself, you know, getting out of alignment. I know you talk about that all the time, but that's only because you're not being intentional.
I love that. So coming to America, or even being, you were born in Jamaica.
I was raised here though, so
You were
technically I'm American.
Okay. So do you get a dual passport?
I have a Jamaican passport, you know, because coming from there, and then yes, when I became an American citizen, I was able to get an American passport.
That's awesome. Was it hard for you to become citizen?
Well, my mom became a citizen, so I just became a citizen through her. But I think back then it was a little easier. So she filed for me after she became a citizen. She was so excited. You know, you have to go through and, you know, learn about America. And like, it's a whole process, you know, that people aren't familiar with. And again, back then it was a lot easier. I think the process is way harder now.
Yeah.
But back then it was easy. So I became a citizen through her. And yeah.
And tell us about your Jamaican heritage. Like, how close are you connected? Like, do you go home a lot? Like, do you cook a lot of Jamaican dishes for the fam? Like,
well, it's so interesting because, you know, for a long time I felt like I didn't belong in any place, because being raised in a Jamaican household, it's like, oh, you're being too American, you know, and I'm just being myself because this is all I know. I was raised in America. So, you know, if I'm doing something that's kind of different from the culture, it's like, oh, you're those American ways, you're so Americanized. And then when I'm out, you know, even up until this just recently, someone's like, you're not Jamaican, because I don't have an accent, right? But it's like my mom's Jamaican, my dad's Jamaican, my whole family's Jamaican. So, you know, culturally, because I wasn't immersed in the culture in Jamaica, sometimes it can feel out of place. You know, people are telling stories and you're like, I don't even know the place you're talking about, and things like that. But I understand the food, you know, I can cook a couple things. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I can throw down just all the cuisine, but I am pretty much American. Like, I can relate more to America than I can to Jamaica because I just wasn't raised there. And being raised here, you adapt to what you see and learn here in this country. So
do you think it makes a difference? Like, are your family ties deep to where, like, that becomes a source of contention? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot when I was getting older, because like I said, it's like Caribbean culture is very, what's the word? Strong. You know, it's like, you know, we band together. It's like, you know, one nation, it's really close knit. Yeah, one love, all the things. And it's just different in America. Like, my independence, like me wanting to do different things and be on my own and things of that nature, it might be viewed like me not respecting, you know, the adults in my life and things like that. It wasn't because I wasn't trying to be respectful. It's just because I'm in a different culture. So I'm at school, you know, with kids who have opinions and they're stating their opinions. You can't do that in a Caribbean household. It's like, who y'all chat to? You know, it's like, you know, like, what's going on? And so I think culturally, I think what I've gotten the most from my culture is my love for people. Not saying that in America it's not a loving culture, but it is a very, like, I'll give you the shirt off my back kind of culture. And so I definitely see that difference in who I am as a person.
Well, we're grateful to have you, Queen. But I don't know. I feel like when we connected, I sense, like, I feel like You have a Jamaican look about you. I hear a undertone there.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I get the island vibes.
Okay. That
I
makes me
guess you got to
happy.
travel to know these things.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to travel to know these things. So talk to us about what you've had to do intentionally to
Mm-hmm.
get you to where you are now, or
Mm-hmm.
talk to us about if you're not moving in total silence,
Mm-hmm.
talk to us about what you're doing intentionally now to get to your next goal.
That's a great question. So to get to where I am now, I had to first understand what it is that I wanted to do, right? A lot of the times, like I said, you can have an idea, but even for us, we started Paymac Consulting with the idea that small businesses should be able to compete in the market.
Yeah.
Just because you're small doesn't mean that you can't, really grow and be able to make the kind of money that the big businesses are making, because the big businesses started small. Like, people don't often think about that. Like, everyone's has to start small, but it's what you do with what you're starting with that gets you to being that big business. So intentionally, when we started Paymac, I didn't even want to start this business. My husband was like, man, he worked for an advertising agency and he only did audio. So I don't know if you know this, but when you watch a commercial, a lot of the times the sound is not filmed right then. It's put in after, right? So like the sound effects, all that kind of stuff, that's put in after. And so that's what he did for car commercials. And it was a small business that he worked for. They had like 30 employees and they were making millions of dollars a year. And the quality was like different. So he was like, I see a lot of Black owned businesses, we're all for the Black and brown, and the quality of the content and, just the things that they were putting out is like, you can't compete in the market like this. So we're like, okay, well, we can help our people, be better or do better in the market. That would allow for more businesses to be successful and have more longevity, because that's what it's all about. Nobody starts a business hoping that it'll end in 5 years. You start a business hoping that you'll have 20, 30, 40 years in the game. But the only way you can do that is if you're operating to that level of a Fortune 500 company.
Woo, what a collection play that girl. Listen, you preaching, okay?
It's real.
Listen, you are preaching.
Yeah, so we had that intention. So we're like, okay, when we get with a business, it's not really just about what you bring to the table, because some things you just may not know as a small business, So it's like, okay, let's pour into this business. Let's say, hey, have you thought about this? Hey, are you currently doing this in your business? And not just be so surface based. Let's go a little deeper so that you have a chance to be successful.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. You pushing all the buttons today. You pushing all the right buttons. So great ideas, right? So for folks that are thinking of starting a business, right? So entrepreneurs that I have worked with, most of them that I worked with initially were people who were starting a business for the first time ever. They just know they're tired of 9 to 5. They know, they don't have a lot of knowledge, but they're willing to learn. They may not have a lot of coins, but they'll bet what they got.
Right.
What advice would you give a newcomer to entrepreneurship as it relates to a great idea, like helping them understand how to shake down the idea to figure out, okay, like I done boiled this thing down and it's still cooking, like it's still good, or no, you know what, I need to turn this eye off because this is done.
Yeah, that's it. That's the advice. Research. People hate it.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you just say, I'm going to do this and not know what's going on around you? You have to do your market research.
Yeah.
Your idea only matters if when you bring it to the market, you're serving a need or a desire. If people don't need what you have, it's really not that great of an idea. And that's just real.
Y'all, she's taught me that simple math. She told me don't ask her no little questions like that again.
No, real talk. But I said that to say, I think that's a lot of small businesses' downfalls. They're like, oh, I really want to do this. And they're so passionate about it. And then they're like, no one's buying it. I've done everything. I've tried everything. They're pouring money into an idea that's just not going to work because people don't need it.
Yeah.
People don't need it or they don't want it.
Yeah.
And so doing market research allows you to say, okay, here's my idea. How can I make this make sense to where people need it or want it? Because that's really the only difference that it's going to make. It's not about you. It's about your customer.
Right.
So if you're not serving them, how are you going to, you get what I'm saying? Like, how is your business going to?
I love that. And I think in some cases, people can create a demand. I use Kanye Yeezys all the time. Y'all didn't want Yeezys until Yeezys was out there.
That's true.
He created the demand for it.
Yeah.
Right. But he also had a platform or a foundation to do something.
Right. But how did he create the demand? He gave the people something that they wanted.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's that need or the want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And so you also mentioned, nobody starts a business thinking about going out of business in 5 years. And I recently came across a statistic. So I am preparing for my 100K Deals Mastermind, which I'm so excited about.
Yes.
So there will be 11 CEOs traveling to Turks and Caicos, and we're going to spend 5 to 6 days. 2 of the days will be in session, actually showing them how to do brand sponsorships, corporate partnerships, government contracts, things that are related to healthcare and transportation entrepreneurship, which is my niche. They have a couple of days to actually enjoy the island and a couple of days to network, right? So all about masterminding. And as I've been preparing for those sessions, I came across a statistic about 50% of businesses go out of business after 5 years. So like imagine doing all this quote unquote betting on yourself. Imagine, the pictures, the photos, the website, the brochures, the networking events, the people you pay,
everything,
the nights you stay up late researching, the nights you stay up late, making sure you have a viable customer service model, product line, whatever it is, all the things that you're doing. And then 5 years later, you fall off the map. Like
all the
it was
way
a
out.
one-hit wonder. And so that really, just got me to thinking more about how important it is for these ladies to understand we got to just think bigger. Part of the reason why we're not getting bigger deals is because we ain't going after them.
Yeah. It's intimidating.
We're not, it is.
And the people, fear really is a huge part of why people go out of business because they're unwilling to change. We started with you have a great idea. That's great. But as you're running a business, sometimes things happen around you in this world where you have to change to keep up with what's going on. So you can stay alive. Look at Kodak. Look at Blockbuster. I mean, this is not new. None of this is new. So think of a small business that doesn't have the capital, that doesn't have access to the resources and even the information, and they're unwilling to say, what's going on in the market that I need to adapt to so that I can stay in this game?
And I tell people too, and I love that you use those because for an OG like myself, like Kodak, what? Like... Yeah, hello. And what you talking about, Blockbuster?
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, nobody. Absolutely nobody would have thunk that, right? But the thing about it is just that we need to do it scared. I don't really like that phrase. I ain't gonna lie, I don't like the phrase do it scared. I prefer moving with confidence. I prefer being intentional. I prefer betting on myself, believing in myself. Like I'm not even thinking about being scared. That's what I'm saying. Like if I am scared, I'm not thinking about being scared. Because what does that do? It just breeds more fear, right?
Paralyzes.
But if you need to do it scared, then sis, do it scared. Because we have got to get into the bigger game. And if we're not growing, which requires change, then some might argue that we're actually not even living, right? So that is just so important because there's no way that we can become the highest version of ourselves or these bigger versions of ourselves without changing.
Period.
And, you get to a stage in life where, you're a certain age or you've been doing something a certain amount of time and you realize just how much more change you have to make. Like it does not end, right? But it's all for your good, which means it's for whomever you're serving good.
And that's what it's about.
And so, and to your point, keep your eye on the customer. They be like, keep your eye on the bag, keep your eye on the customer, and the bag will follow.
Yeah.
Wherever your bag is, your customer is, that's where your bag is. Right?
And that's all about being intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also have to get in front of the right people. So you want to do your market research, as you were saying, you want to, make sure you have something that people need. But if you over here selling, if you in Rome and you're not selling what Rome needs, because what you selling needs to be over here in Venice, you got to make a move. And I do feel like it is those fundamental building blocks that you're talking about that people don't know about.
Yeah.
And that's probably why they need to get this book Run the Play.
Yes.
That's probably why they need to get
And it's so simple too, because again, I mean, think about anything in your life. When you don't make a plan, how successful are you? You know what I mean? Like even on a small scale, like what are you going to do today?
Yeah.
Well, when you free ball it, a lot of the times you end up doing a lot of nothing. Right. So, I wrote the book because I'm like, business plans are a little bit not a little bit, but they're very much outdated in a sense. Like even grant applications and loan applications and things of that nature, they're not asking for those anymore. They're asking you for a business model canvas.
Yeah.
And that is a 1-page overview of your business.
Yes.
From all of those 9 components. What's your cost structure?
Yeah.
What's your customer segment? That's who you're serving.
Right.
You know what I mean? What channels are you using?
Right.
Your value proposition. All of these things are something that you need to constantly understand in your business for you to stay in business.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Some of the things that we start our clients off with that are in our agency program. We have an agency program. We have a project management program, and we have a subscription program. We drop the digital. We no longer have a self-study program anymore. And that's because we want people to be profitable. We want them to be strong CEOs, and it's very difficult in this day and age when people have so much coming at them for them to really start a business or start a drug test center or a clinical lab simply by being left to their own vices. I do have some clients that it works for, but like not that many.
Yeah.
So your clients will also tell you what's not working for them directly or indirectly, right? And so we just said, we're going to scrap digital. We're going to scrap self-study, self-serve, self-startup, and we're going to really just be in a position because that's the onus is on us as the leaders and experts to help people really understand what they need.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's mindset. Like you were saying, plan. Like some clients don't know how to plan their day to take the self-study course, right? And so it's just so many things, that I think that people need before they can even understand how to run the play. You know what I mean? Like, so, but where I was actually going with that is that, so inside of our program, we have our clients develop a vision, a mission, and their core value.
Yeah.
Because if you don't understand where it is that you want this great idea to go, and you don't understand what you do in the moment to serve the people that you want to pay you, right? And you don't have anything you stand 10 toes down, as they say, on, then your business
foundation.
Your business doesn't have a foundation. And it's not easy to come up with those things. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But do you cover any of that? Like, is that kind of part of the business canvas?
Yeah.
More of a pre-read?
No, that's a part of the business canvas. So that's a part of more so your value proposition, right? Like, how are you going to stand out from everybody else in the market? And you have to understand that by knowing what you stand for, right? And who you're serving as a customer customer. I think it's so important. You know, some businesses have the luxury of having everyone be their customer in a sense. But most businesses, surprisingly, you have to really understand what that customer avatar is. Like, who is this person who is looking for you, who's waiting for you, who is ready for you?
Yes.
You build that person and then you go after that person. You know, you use your different channels, just like, you know, when you talked about networking events. Well, you're not supposed to go to every networking event.
Right.
You're supposed to go to the networking event where you're going to find the people who you can serve.
Yes.
And that may not be at everybody's event.
Yeah.
You know? And so understanding, like you said, what that foundation is, which that's what the business model canvas covers. When you know that foundation, you can walk boldly as you go on this journey, because can't nobody tell you nothing about your business.
Yes.
You understand your business first.
Yes.
Now, can you pick up resources along the way? Absolutely. Can you learn from other people along the way?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But when you understand it first and foremost, and you can feel confident about it, it changes the way you make decisions.
Yes.
You're not as scared.
Yes.
You know, just all the things. You're more intentional because you have an actual plan.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think people are trying to skip kindergarten, go straight to middle school.
Straight to college, girl. They all the way in college.
You said something else that made me think about college. And I know every entrepreneur has not had, you know, what some might call formal education, right? So every entrepreneur doesn't have a degree. They may have a degree, but it's not a degree in business, right? Or it's not an advanced degree. And I don't think you need those things to be an entrepreneur per se. However, when we talk about research, things like college, that's what kind of gives you the discipline to do research.
Right.
Because one, you had to do it because you had to write research papers, right? And so I would say for those rich friends of mine who have been to school, right? You've been to college, you know, you have a degree. Like, be prepared to leverage that stuff. That's what college to me is really all about.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about the degree you got. It's about the tenacity and the skills that you gained while getting that degree. So be prepared to leverage those things. Like, if you got your degree, it's in you for sure.
Yeah.
Because you already did it. And if you didn't get your degree, I mean, there's Run the Play.
And there's Google. Oh my goodness. You know, oftentimes I have consultations weekly and it's always the same problem that people are having. Different people, different businesses, different industries. And it's always the same problem. You don't know what you don't know. And that's no fault to you, right? But the lack of seeking the knowledge is on you. You have to take ownership of not knowing something and being okay with that. Ignorance is not bliss when it comes to your business.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's so much free information out here. Like, we live in a day and age now where shouldn't nobody walk around saying, oh, I didn't go to school, so I don't know. Nah, that's a cop-out.
Yeah.
You have to not be lazy and actually do the work to figure it out by looking it up.
Yeah.
And that's a simple Google search and a simple YouTube search. My husband built PayMac Media on YouTube. He went to YouTube University.
Yeah.
He did not go to school to learn videography and photography and all those things. He had a desire and he wanted to be able to compete on a high level. So he did the work. He practiced. He still studies every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not, when you say you love something or you say that you want to excel in something, you're going to put the time in. Would it take 10,000 hours for you to master something? We're not even willing to put in 100 hours nowadays.
Not even 10.
Not even 10. And it shows.
Yeah. 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 I definitely agree with that. Why operations consulting?
Well, I have a Six Sigma green belt. So what that is for process improvement and quality improvement. Lean Six Sigma was developed by the guy who actually founded Toyota.
Okay.
And so it's a methodology that says that you should operate your business in a lean way. And that means that you should reduce waste and increase efficiency. And you can do that by understanding what is your current workflow, or what does your workflow need to be on the most basic, level,
Yeah.
right? A lot of the times we think if we hire more people or if we spend more money, we just throw money at it, it's going to be better. But I actually take the opposite approach. How efficient can you be when you strip away everything that you possibly can strip away, but still function at a high level? That's when you take that base, then you can start adding things onto it, right? And that's how you start scaling and doing all the things. But initially, you have to understand, what are the 10 steps? Those are key activities that's in the business model canvas. What are the 10 steps that I have to do in my business every day for it to run? A lot of people don't know the answer to that question.
Right. And what I should be doing specifically as a CEO.
Yep. Or what you should be delegating.
Yeah. And if I should even be the CEO.
Yes, that
right?
part.
Because sometimes you shouldn't be the CEO of your business. You can be a business owner, or you can own a company, and you don't have to be the CEO because maybe you're not ready for that. Because if you are the CEO, you're going to have to develop yourself. And I definitely feel like that is something that is so overlooked in social selling.
Yes.
Right? The development.
Yes.
I just finished listening to the Rockefeller Habits, and it was absolutely amazing.
Wow.
It is focused on growing firms and how to maximize value as a growing firm. So, for example, my company's Q2 goal is to increase the valuation of our company and to increase the value for our customers.
Right.
And so everyone on the team was able to provide input as to what is it that they believe they should do as part of their role and responsibility to provide the maximum value.
Right.
Right? Because they're doing a job. So I want to hear from them. And then they have to translate that into daily priorities.
The key activity.
Right. So it's not doing everything on a list, because there's a million things on the list. Yesterday I had 25,000 things to do. Right. And I got maybe 3 done. But as long as they were the most important or the most urgent, then I still scored. Right. And so then they score themselves as well. So by the end of the week, the expectation is that you got a 5 out of 5. You get a point every day. Now, you get a half point if you showed up and worked.
Right.
You get a whole point, a full point, if you were able to meet those priorities.
I love that.
Yeah, because that way, because nobody wants to score 0.
Right.
So we don't want that.
Yeah.
But it also just keeps it linear, I think, simple. And then also you're keeping that, you're able to see if people are meeting the priorities a lot more quickly. You have more visibility into that. And then you streamline what it is that people are focusing on, almost like critical path and project management, right? So that because without that, then as a CEO, you're not doing your job, because your job as a CEO is to be able to predict.
Yes. And make decisions. Yeah. And you can't do that when you're in the weeds every day. And I love that you're including your team in the ownership. Because I think so often we feel like, oh, I'm a boss. And it's like, you're only as good as your team, though.
Yes.
Right? So if you're a boss and you're not preparing your team, if you're not including them in on the conversation of what your plans are to scale, and you have these unrealistic expectations of them because you're not giving them the resources and the tools that they need to function every day, then that is not going to help you reach the success or maintain the success that you want to achieve.
Right.
And so that's why the business model canvas is also very important, because that 1-page document, you can share it with your team. Your team should understand what your value proposition is. Your team should understand who your key partners are and what your key activities are, because those things don't often change on a day-to-day basis, right? It'll change over time because it's a living document, but it's going to stay pretty consistent once you start building it, right? And then you can follow it like a roadmap.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because that's what we're, leveraging as for our 100K deals, is basically like that value proposition. Because once you understand that, you can now respond to the grants.
Yeah.
You can, respond to the government contracts. You can respond to you know,
The partnerships. Yeah.
because you, like you said, you know who you are. Nobody is telling you, you're telling them like who you are, and you're doing so confidently. Yeah,
Yes.
very important.
And even just, people are always like, oh, I want to do pitch competitions and things like that. It's like, can you tell me what you do in 30 seconds? That's a real thing.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
And, getting that groundwork done, like you said, developing yourself as the face of the business when you're first starting out. Everyone can't hire a CEO right away, and you don't have to be the CEO, but you should understand what it is you do and who you do it for at a basic level and know your numbers.
Right.
I had a meeting the other day, and that's the first thing he asked me. He was like, well, what are your numbers? What's your monthly revenue goals? And I was able to tell him, I just finished the book.
Right.
But I was able to tell him because I understood, okay, before I even finished writing the book, I understood how many copies do I need to sell each month to reach XYZ goals?
Absolutely.
How many workshops do I need to do? You know what I mean? So just really understanding what it is that you're doing on a basic level. You don't need a degree to do that.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I think that 30 seconds is very critical. Like that 30 seconds could be a $30 million deal.
Yep.
If you
never know who you talking to.
Yeah, you talking spicy and nice. Like, no, but you really don't. Like, I had one client who was my client through another client, so it really was their client, and I'm providing a service to their client.
Right.
And now they have become my client on the drug testing and clinical lab side. Right.
And why? Why is that?
Because they understand, right? They understand. And so, my tips, rich friends, are really like, to just kind of run it back. It's like you've got to define. So what we've heard is we need to do research to make sure we got a great idea. If we're starting a business or changing our business even, right? New services, products. We need to have some data, some numbers to back that stuff up, right? And we need to be in tune into what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. Then it comes off as so authentic. Like, this is such authentic energy right there, like, right here, right now, like very grounded, because like, this is what you do. Like, you could close your eyes and put your hands behind your back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's real.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's how basically you have to be able to articulate that to people and talk it and show it. And then money just kind of starts showing up at your door. Like people, because when I had that conversation, I was doing a training of sorts. It was more like, hey, I got this client base. Let me get them together real quick.
Right.
And let me tell them some things that they need to know about this particular business process. That's all it was, right? Well, when I followed up with this person as part of a business process, right? This person's like, oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you about
Look at that.
drug test center and clinical lab. And, they signed on.
See?
So, yeah. So being intentional, it is.
Yeah.
And it actually falls in line because I want to start working with men. I want to start working with men a lot.
Okay.
Because I just feel like it's such an opportunity for men to touch other men, like younger men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have some men in our program. They're not currently active. They have stuff going on already.
Right.
But, that was already, when you talk about intention, like that was in my head. Like, I really want to get connected to men who want to start drug testing centers and clinical labs.
Yeah.
And they may span off into other services that really get down and touch other young men, particularly African Americans. So look at God.
And because you know that, you know how to move, you move differently. Again, like we talked about, because you know that, now you're going to be in different rooms, right? Because you're going to go to where your customer is, and you're not just going to be all over the place because you have intention.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so proud of you, man. That's dope.
I'm proud of you. I got to get my book ordered and autographed.
Yeah.
Yes. When is the book signing?
So the book should be released on Small Business Week, which is May 1st through the 5th, and it'll be available on Barnes & Nobles, Walmart.com, and Amazon is playing with me, so I'm not going to put their name out here. But it'll definitely be on BarnesandNobles.com.
I love that.
Yes,
well, I cannot wait to attend the book signing. I can't wait to get my book personally signed.
You're going to have your book, girl.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you, not just for supporting, my company, but, just for supporting communities. I just think that we really, really, really need to just start acknowledging people's good work. Like, people don't got to get a Grammy or Oscar or, and that's great, or NAACP award. Those are all great. Not taking anything from that, but like, we have everyday heroes out here.
Agreed.
And
you're one of them.
Well, thank you. But it's tough in these entrepreneur streets.
Very.
And so just having someone that is willing to, lend their gifts and help other people be their best, right? That's a blessing.
It is.
And I don't take that for granted.
Oh, well, thank you. And, I think, like you said, it's all about using your gifts for good.
Yeah.
Sometimes the world will take that away from you. Like, I have my moments where, like, I'm not helping nobody else. And it's like, but that goes against my nature.
Yeah.
So it's like, am I going to change who I am because of one or two people who may not understand or appreciate it? Absolutely not.
There you go. That's why I tell people I'm not going to quit my job until God tell me so. I ain't going to let nobody drive me crazy.
Period.
So it's 2023. 3 years from now, what should we expect from Paymac Consulting on the media side and on the strategic operations consultant side?
I love that. 3 years, expect very large conferences for small business owners who want to start and they're not really sure where to. And just, wherever God leads. I actually stopped talking about what my future is because I'm on this day-by-day process with God.
Okay.
I'm like, Lord, I need you to lead. So today you might have me here on Sheila Michelle's couch. Next week you might have me on the street, serving somebody. And I'm okay with that.
Yes, I love that. Do you, what advice do you have for people who want to build teams? Like, so for you, you understand the need, the value, and how to run lean, but everybody doesn't understand how to run lean. So what advice do you have for people with regard to that?
Definitely know what your key activities are first, because sometimes we hire titles versus things that you actually need, right? You might hear somebody say, oh, I have a COO. So you're like, oh, I need a COO.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. So once you understand what your day-to-day operations look like and you understand that fully, then you can understand, well, who are the people that I need to take on these responsibilities?
Yeah.
Right? And so you can operate more lean, because if you hire a VA versus hiring a manager, you know what I mean? You may be able to get some more things done and taken off your plate, pay a little less, but it's all about you knowing it first so that you can train and put people in their rightful positions.
Yeah, because I had 10 VAs last year. Like, no, I'm not exaggerating. I literally had 10 VAs.
Well, they were all doing different things?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You consolidated?
I did. I'm down to 4.
Okay,
now.
That's good.
But yeah, I had 10.
What made you have so many?
Because there was just so much work to do. There was a lot of work to do. So, I had a personal assistant, I had an executive assistant, I had an operations person, I had, a technical person, I had a business analyst, I had someone taking calls, and I still do. All of those roles are needed. However, what I realize is in other words, they are the right seat, but not the right skill set.
Right.
So if you don't have the right skill set in a role, you have 50 people, but if it's not the right folks.
Facts.
And
who was managing all these people? You?
I was primarily managing them. I mean, we had the office still open at that time. That was before we became mobile. So I didn't have to manage everybody, but I did a good bit of management.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, because that in and of itself is a role. But you know, having worked with offshore teams, I'm familiar with the model.
Yeah.
You know, global project management, Big Four consulting project management with offshore teams. So I'm familiar with the model. But I would just say, you know, a wise woman once told me you can do as much with a little as you can a lot. And so we're functioning off those four. You know, it's a high performance, you know, high intensity team. But, you know, they're getting it done. So I think for me, just making sure we got everything as tight as possible, then I feel like you can go, because those hires are just so important.
Yeah. And but I think what's so important too, what I've watched in you and how you've been scaling your business is every time you understand what your customer needs, you make the correct changes. You know what I mean? So often people are like, it's not me, it's them. It's not you. You know what I mean?
Well, I was like that for a while. I was like that for a while. Like, it's not me, it's them. But I, you know, working with you all and working with other people, I think that it wasn't. I got to a place where I understood it's not me, it's them. It's about you're doing because that's personalizing.
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, nobody told me, hey, you need to drop that, you know, self-study program.
Right.
Because we totally implemented Mighty Networks for that reason.
Right.
But when we look at what our number one seller is, our number one seller was our 10K agency, which is now 15K, by the way.
Okay.
So this run the play, I think, you know, the 9 components to build and scale your business that you have, you know, authored this is something that without even reading it, that I feel like somebody can apply, reapply, you know, over time. And those are the types of periodicals that we should want to have, like on our bookshelf.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
like
that's
good
the
old
goal.
classics. Yeah.
That's the intention.
That's the intention.
That's the intention.
So where can my rich friends find you?
Your rich friends can find me at Backend Bestie on all platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And by the way, if you're not on all platforms, you should be because your customer is everywhere. But yeah, and backendbestie.com.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for coming today.
So excited. I'm honored to be here, y'all. I get to sit on the couch. What?
All right. Well, I hope you'll come back
and
talk to us about the conference.
Yes, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.